Do you have a word of the year for 2026? Do you have goals and dreams and prayers and plans for 2026? Well, in this video, I'm going to be sharing my word of the year as well as some goals I have for the months to come. Hello there, it's Hillary, and welcome back to the Creative Faith YouTube channel. I love inspiring and encouraging women in their faith. And today I'm excited to be talking about goals and words of the year. And I know that we're already into February, but I wanted to take time to share this with you because it's never too late to set goals, it's never too late to pray for your year, and it's never too late to ask God to give you a word of the year as well as have a place to document what God does in and through your word. So these are a couple of journals that I made for Creative Faith & Co. And they were new at the end of last year. And I love how they turned out. So first I had my year-end reflection journal. And I did have these that I had released before, my Year to Shine journals. And I did enjoy working through these, but it was really fun to have one that had even more prompts and questions in it as well as something that was full color. And so I really liked working through this. I worked through mine. I filled out more pages in here than I have in these, which I felt like was a good sign. So I'd love for you to comment below which kind of format did you prefer? Because of course I will, if you guys liked this, make a new one for the end of 2026. So I have that. And then I also made these word of the year journals. And so the front half had kind of some prep work to help you alongside God pick a word for the year. And then there's a spot to kind of dive in deep about your word. And then a spot for you to do monthly updates. And so even if you have already picked a word of the year, but you're like, oh, I kind of like the idea of having, from a Christian perspective, a place to document what God is teaching me about my word, you can still pick one of these up, as well as one of these journals. I still have a few pages left to fill out in here, and it's, again, never too late to document and pray and dive in deep with the Lord. And then I also wanted to mention too, I did do 2 videos in my Psalms Bible. One was a prayer of gratitude for 2025, and then a second one was a prayer for 2026. So those videos also go along really well with all of these themes. And again, it's never too late to thank God for what He did last year, reflect on what He did last year, as well as pray for the new year ahead. Also, before I show you my pages and talk about my goals and my word of the year, I wanted to read you an email I got from Katie. And it was such a sweet email to get. You guys have no idea. Running a business is very hard, especially a Christian based business. It can be very discouraging. So, whenever you email me, it just truly means the world to me. And so, Katie said, I just wanted to say thank you for creating the Word of the Year journal. I was struggling to discern my word of the year for 2026. With the activities in the journal, it became clear that God gave me 3 words this year, and now I'm seeing them everywhere in my Bible time with Jesus and in posts by others. Thank you so much for all you do and post. So I loved that testimony of working through her word of the year journal. And so thank you again, Katie, for emailing me that. And also, if you guys ever have the moment in time to write a review on Amazon, that really, really helps me. Write a few sentences about what you loved about the book or journal or planner, devotion. That, again, is super, super helpful and a really easy way to, help support Creative Faith and help get these products in the hands of others. So I started by working in this journal. So my Goodbye 2025, Hello 2026 journal. It's kind of like a more intense version of the prep work in here. And so I really started here thinking about, okay, what all happened in 2025? And so that was kind of where I started. And so much happened in 2025. Oh, I can't remember if I mentioned I will have these resources linked in the description box below if you want to pick them up on Amazon. And those are Amazon affiliate links. But yeah, I did also film a video kind of working through these as well. Um, but I basically took all of January to do this and to do kind of a big reset and reflection. So, and again, that's okay. It's okay to take time and not rush through this process. So, a lot happened in 2025. I loved in both journals, it had a spot for kind of monthly highlights. I loved how I had it in here. It was highlights and hard times. So you can kind of see good and bad because I think God has something in both of those, right? In the hard moments and easy times as well. And then in here, it just had one little box for each month. And so this was really great to look over. And I started with going to my personal Instagram. Each month, I try to do a little post with photos. And so I went through those and used those to help me remember all that happened. So we had, yeah, just a lot going on. I started working with some clients at the beginning of the year, and then in the summer, I quit my job of 9 years and I'm now off on my own. We discovered mold in our house. My husband remediated it and remodeled part of our bathroom. We did a lot of house projects. We did a lot in the garden. Um, we had a lot of like opportunities to serve, and I had, yeah, just a totally new kind of a sphere of people I was hanging out with, and a lot of low moments too. We had a few really dear people in my life pass away. So just a lot of highs and lows. But it was such a good opportunity to just think through all of that and use that to help me pray for the new year and think about my word of the year too. My word for last year was peace. And God really did teach me so much about this word, but one of the most memorable moments was during an event. I was asked what success means to me, and I said a peaceful life. And that is not probably the world's definition of success, but I could just totally see how all the different decisions and things that happened last year led me into a more peaceful life. So, God really provided a lot for us last year. I do want to like kind of do something more like this for my business. That's one thing I feel like I didn't really do as I was thinking about this stuff, was going deep about like business things. So it sort of made me think like, oh, maybe I should make a journal similar to this but focused for business owners. So I don't know how many of you that follow me own a business, but let me know if that's something you'd like. It's something I was just kind of thinking about. We did a ton of home projects last year, and I had a lot of, not a lot, but a few different health things with kidney stones and chipped tooth and just, yeah, some kind of tricky things, but just such a beautiful year. I still have some pages to fill out in here, but again, I definitely filled out way more pages in here versus my Year to Shine journals, which I think is, yeah, definitely a good sign of the improvements I made for this journal. I read a ton of books last year, and I definitely want to keep that up this year. So yeah, I'll just maybe kind of flip to the second half, because this video is supposed to be more about my goals. So what I did was, this was kind of where I was workshopping goals, and I have all these different categories in this journal that I went through, and yeah, I was just kind of reflecting and praying and did just like a ton of brain dumps on goals that I want to do. So, of course, faith is super important to me. And I do want to do a separate video about like 2026 and Bible study, because, yeah, I just want to do a separate video about that. So stay tuned for that. And I definitely want to work more on prayer journaling daily. I've been doing really well with that using my new digital prayer journal. So I do have a video all about digital prayer journaling, and so that's been a huge help in just making myself pause before the day starts and praying and spending time with the Lord. And so those are kind of some faith goals. I really want to go deeper in God's word. So go slow and deep versus like rushing through it. So again, stay tuned for some more information about that. There's a lot of food themed goals. I definitely want to add some more dinner options to kind of the routine of what I do, and try some new recipes. Definitely need to have less sugar. I don't think people should, I think sometimes sugar can be a little bit demonized, but I definitely know that it's not a good thing to have a ton of sugar in your diet. Grow our own food. I definitely want to try to learn to can this year. And a big one is to have fewer meals in front of screens, whether that's an iPad, a phone, our TV, and maybe even eat more meals outside. So that is a big one. For fitness, oh, I didn't even write this down. I should add this. 100 rebounder jumps each morning. So I have a little mini trampoline. And so a big goal of mine is every morning, first thing when I get up, I'm going to do 100 jumps on it. And I've been doing pretty well. Like, I'd say probably 6 out of 7 days of the week. For the month of January, I've done it. Super helpful for your lymphatic system, and yeah, really, really good for your body. So I've been loving doing that. I also am going on a walk every single day, which goes along with my word of the year, which I'll get to in a moment. So those are some of my fitness goals. For home, I definitely am going to try this year to, like, if it takes a minute to just do it in the moment, like putting my shoes away. Like I come home from a walk, I take my shoes off and leave them by the front door. Well, the closet is just a couple steps away. Just put them away right away. Or like I take my hair out of a hair clamp, and instead of leaving it on the hutch or the kitchen table, just going and putting it in the bathroom. And so that I know will help with just keeping our home tidier, which is a big goal of mine. And then also being content with our home, not like, wanting more or different or better things, but just being content with what God's given us. And then definitely want to host more and use our home for the glory of God. So that was something that I think, started to do such a good job on last year. And so that is something that working on for this year as well. I definitely want to take more baths. And then I did get a device called the Brick, and I can get really sucked into scrolling, which a part of my job is running multiple social media accounts, so that can be kind of easy to do, but I definitely want to mindlessly scroll less. So definitely check out the Brick if that is something that you have for a goal for this year. Definitely want to have more screen-free hobbies like puzzles, game nights, and just for fun. Like, I want to have more music on in our home. So let's see. What else? Our job, our business. I am putting it out there. I want to start my Creative Faith email newsletters again. That's another thing where I write multiple email newsletters for multiple clients, but I haven't written one for my own email list in 2 years. So that is a huge goal of mine for this year, is to restart Creative Faith email newsletters. I want to write more devotion books, focus, and pray each day. So that goes back to the prayer journaling. So I'm starting my day with prayer. I ask God to lead and guide me during the day. And then what I get done, I get done. There's always going to be more work, but I want to have a more kind of grace filled approach to it. I can be really hard on myself, like, oh, I didn't get a million things done in the day. But guess what? That's okay. And I don't need to get a million things done every day. No one does. So just trying to focus and pray each day, and what gets done is what God wants me to get done that day. Those are some of the goals I was going to share. And I feel like there's another little page in here I was going to share, but I can't remember which one. Oh, it was this one. I think I kind of mentioned all of these things. I definitely want to continue spending a lot of time outside, as much time outside as possible. This well, last year in 2025, I think read 15 books. So this year I would like to read 20. So continuing to read and work on things that are fun. So I think that was kind of it from here, what I wanted to share. So let's jump in now to my word of the year. Comment below if you have a word of the year, what it is. If you have a Bible verse of the year, I would absolutely love to hear those. So my word for 2026 is walk, and I'm going to kind of dive in deep into what that means because I felt like, oh, it seems like it's kind of a weird word, but God really had a lot of interesting things to teach me about it. So, the beginning of this book is prep work for helping you discern what your word of the year should be. I truly believe that I want God in my life to lead and guide everything, including picking a word of the year. I never want to, just say, my word for 2026 is success. And God's like, actually, it's going to be humility, or something like that. So I always want to invite the Lord into every single area of my life, including goal setting, including picking a word of the year. So the prep work, a part of that is prayer. So I prayed December 28th and I said, please reveal what you want me to work on. So this was in the morning, or no, this was in the afternoon when Juan and we went to Starbucks before Bible study and I was working in here. So then we went to Bible study and we read Genesis 4 and 5 that day. And one of the Bible people that is in there is a man named Enoch. And it said that Enoch walked with God. And so then we were, talking about walking with God at Bible study. Then I get home. And then a few days later, on December 31st, I was getting ready to go on a walk. And it kind of popped in my head like, I wonder if my word should be walk. Like, I wonder if that should be my word of the year. So I wrote a prayer asking God to confirm if that was what he wanted me to work on and focus on for 2026. And I had already kind of filled out a lot of this. Part, I asked Juan what he thought I should work on, and he said simplicity and being faithful, for me to trust God's faithful in my life. In December, there were a lot of verses about contentment that I was noticing. I wrote about the Bible study and Enoch. I did not work through every single page in the prep area, but yeah, and then I was like, oh, should I fill these out before I film this video? But I want to be honest, and guess what? I didn't fill out every single page, and that is okay. So anyways, I go on this walk, and I just started to think about the word walk. And I was thinking about walking by faith, because Juan was thinking about faith for me. I was thinking about Enoch and him walking in friendship and fellowship with God. I was thinking about walking for wellness and healing. That is a really big part of my life, is working on getting healthier and healing. I was thinking about contentment, walking in contentment. I was thinking a lot about walking with others, walking hand in hand with others, whether that's my husband or the other people God's put in my life. And then I was thinking about just what is walking as I was walking. And it is to make forward progress at a slow and steady pace. And I loved that definition. For much of my life, I feel like I had been running through life. And so, kind of last year, I started learning about slowing down and how important that is. And so, I love the idea of walking and how we're still making progress, right, at a slow and steady pace. And so, anyways, after that walk, I was like, you know what? My word is going to be walk. And, I felt kind of funny about it because it just seemed like, oh, is that kind of a weird word? But I just love how it came together, and I think it's unique because I'm unique and my walk with God is unique. And so I did make these new vinyl stickers that say walk by faith, 2 Corinthians 5:7, because the symbolism of boots and shoes, and especially cowgirl boots, was something that kind of popped in my mind. And so I have that, and I'll link that in the Creative Faith Etsy shop if you want a vinyl sticker. And then also I have these little charm kits. And so I made this charm for me for my planner for this year. And I have this little cowgirl boot. So to remind me to walk by faith, walk with God, walk with others, walk in contentment in the new year. So yeah, I'm really excited about this word. So the next section is about my word. And again, I haven't totally filled all of this out, but I plan to kind of keep working on it throughout the whole year. So I have a spot to write a prayer. And then I have, let's see if I still have it on my desk. I do. It's a big boy, the Holman Illustrated Bible Dictionary. This is a great thing to have if you love Bible study. It has tons of information and maps and photos and just a really great Bible study tool. So I looked up walk in here and wrote down the definition. And then I also looked it up in Greek and Hebrew. I definitely want to dive in deeper to this, but I don't really know much about Greek and Hebrew. But I just thought I would just do a quick little Google and I have the whole year to kind of dive in deeper with that. But this was a really interesting exercise to look up the definition. I thought it was really fascinating. In the Bible dictionary, it talked about how walking to and fro is like a military term meaning to patrol or to go and inspect. And in the monthly updates, I wrote one of the questions was, in what moment did you feel God inviting you to lean deeper into your word? When I was looking up the definitions and realized that it was a military term for patrolling, right? Which makes sense. When military are patrolling, what are they doing? They're walking. And it made me realize and just remember we are in a spiritual war, right? There is a battle going on in the heavenly realms, and I need to be on guard. I do need to be patrolling because Satan is sending fire arrows. He's sending them at my business, he's sending them in my marriage, at my life, at my mind, and that's not good. So it's good to be on guard and patrolling and being, armored up. So that was really, really fascinating. I also was writing down a few Bible verses about my word. This was one that I heard on a podcast I was listening to this month about Psalm 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked. And then I wrote down the Genesis 5 verse, and as well as Genesis 6. It says Noah walked. Okay, I forgot a letter. Lived in habitual fellowship with God. And then Enoch also walked in habitual fellowship with God. And then the Bible verse mentioned Hebrews 11, so then I wrote that. So I have a bunch of different Bible verses about it. I looked up a few different books about walking with God that maybe I can read this year. Song lyrics. My boss mentioned a song called Walk on Faith by Mike Reed, and so he was like, maybe that could be your theme song, which I've never really thought about having like a theme song for my word of the year. So I loved that idea. And then again, I still have extra pages and prompts to work through throughout the year. Some different quotes about walking, a few photos from Pinterest, and a few people in the Bible I was thinking about. It also made me think like I really want to do some sort of maybe devotion book about walking. So lots of room to dive deeper, but really excited for what I've already been learning. And then the next section is monthly updates. And so I was filling these out, which I'm really loving. And then there's also some blank spots in the back. And so what I did, I'm reading various books. And so a few of the books mentioned walking. So I wrote down those book quotes here. So walking contentment, walking with the Lord. So from The Way of the Wildflower and Ian Bounds on Prayer. I wrote down the book quotes, and then I have this cute picture of my husband and I on a walk, on an impromptu long fun walk we did. So there's that, and then there's all the rest of the months. So really excited to have this fill up and just see all the rest that God is going to teach me about walking and teach me about Him in 2026. Let me know in the comments, what is your word of the year? What are some goals that you have for the year ahead? Oh, I think I was going to mention too that after I was kind of brainstorming in here for my goals for the year, then I transferred them over into my planner for the year. So fun to have it in here, and yeah, just ready for all that God has in the year to come. So thank you so much for being here. I hope this video gave you some ideas on maybe some goals that you could add to your list for the new year. Learn a little bit about my word of the year and how God brought me to that word and what He's been teaching me about it so far. And yeah, I'd love to hear what your word of the year is in the comments. So be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the bell notification so you don't miss out on any upcoming Creative Faith videos. And I'll see you next time. Bye, friend.